Vampire survivors. VR looks comfortable, accessible, and safe. But that raises a dangerous question. Is this pushing VR forward, or is VR taking the easy way out? Is this really what VR is supposed to be? We were promised worlds to explore, hands that could grasp anything, experiences that felt real. So why does one of the hottest new VR games feel like this? Vampire Survivors VR. Is this the future of virtual reality? A bold step forward in accessibility? Or is it a sign that VR is giving up, settling for less, and taking the easy way out? Is this progress or a regression for the entire medium? Let's start with the argument for this approach. Why would a developer take a beloved 2D game and barely change it for VR? The answer is simple. Accessibility. Not everyone wants or can handle intense, room-scale VR experiences that leave you sweating and tangled in cables. Vampire Survivors VR is the definition of comfort-first design. You can play it sitting down for hours, with almost zero physical effort. There's no motion sickness, no steep learning curve. You just move and watch the chaos unfold. It opens the door for a massive audience that might be intimidated by more complex VR titles. It's a game you can relax with, a casual VR experience that respects your energy levels and your physical space. From a business standpoint, it's brilliant. It's a proven hit, easy to port, and caters to the largest possible player base. So, what's the problem? The problem is, it feels too safe. Dangerously safe. While it nails comfort, it sacrifices almost everything that makes VR special. The gameplay loop, addictive on a flat screen, becomes mind-numbingly repetitive when you're literally inside it. You're a floating camera, a disembodied observer in your own game. You don't have hands. You don't swing a sword or cast a spell. Your physical presence is zero. The interaction is passive. You're not an actor in this world. You're just a cursor. The game happens at you, not with you. It's the antithesis of the embodied presence that VR evangelists have been preaching about for years. It's like being invited to an amazing party, but being told you have to stand in a corner and can't talk to anyone. The potential for deep, physical immersion is completely sidelined for the sake of simplicity. Let's put them side by side. On the left, the original Vampire Survivors. On the right, the VR version. Look closely. It's the same game. The sprites are now 3D models, and the camera is attached to your head. That's essentially it. The core mechanic, the feedback loop, the player's role, it's all identical. This isn't a game redesigned for VR. It's a game put into VR. You could argue this is a VR game design shortcut. Instead of building an experience from the ground up that leverages VR's unique strengths like hand tracking, physics-based interaction, and spatial awareness, you just take a successful 2D formula and give it a 3D coat of paint. It's a template, and it's one we're starting to see more often. But is this what we want VR to become? A repository for flat-screen games with a VR camera? So, why are studios doing this? The motivation is crystal clear. It's a low-risk, high-reward business model. Developing a full-fledged, made-for-VR title is incredibly expensive and risky. The market is still smaller than traditional gaming, and the technical challenges are immense. A game like Half-Life, Alyx, is a monumental undertaking. On the other hand, porting a pre-existing, wildly successful indie game is comparatively cheap, fast, and almost guarantees a return on investment. The brand is already established. The gameplay is proven. It's a safe bet in a volatile market. Developers can quickly populate their VR portfolio, and platforms get more content to sell. From a purely financial perspective, it makes perfect sense. It's an efficient content pipeline, but efficiency doesn't always equal quality or innovation. And that brings us to the cost. The real price we pay for this efficiency. What is lost when VR settles for being a 3D viewer for 2D games? We lose presence, that magical feeling of being, of your brain being tricked into believing the virtual world is real. We lose physicality, the joy of using your own body to interact, to fight, to solve puzzles. Think of the satisfying thwack of landing a sword blow and blade and sorcery, or the frantic feeling of manually reloading a gun in Pavlov. That's gone. We also lose a sense of identity. In great VR games, you are the character. Your hands are their hands. In games like Vampire Survivors VR, you are a ghost, a spectator to your own actions. This approach strips away the soul of virtual reality. It trades the revolutionary potential of the medium for something comfortable, familiar, and ultimately less ambitious. It turns VR from a new reality into just a new type of screen. So, we circle back to our central question. Is this the evolution of VR necessary phase of making the technology more mainstream and accessible to everyone? Or is it a dangerous precedent? A sign that the industry is losing its nerve and settling for easier, less inspiring experiences? Is Vampire Survivors VR a gateway drug for new VR users? Or is it a creative dead end that prioritizes profit over progress? The answer probably lies somewhere in the middle, but it's a conversation we need to have. As players and as fans of this incredible technology, we have to ask ourselves, what kind of future do we want for virtual reality? One that challenges us, immerses us, and pushes boundaries? Or one that just gives us what we already know, but with a slightly different view? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Vampire Survivors VR doesn't fail at what it tries to do. It succeeds, and that's exactly why it's worrying. On the surface, this feels like a win for VR. It's comfortable. It's readable. It avoids motion sickness, physical exhaustion, and frustration. And for many players, that's exactly what VR needs right now. But comfort isn't the same thing as progress. Vampire Survivors. VR removes almost everything that makes VR unique. There's no embodiment, no physical intention, no spatial problem solving. You're not inhabiting the world. You're observing it through a headset. At that point, VR becomes a display, not a medium. This kind of design exists because it's safe. Low development cost, low mechanical risk, low chance of alienating players. Studios love that. But when VR leans too hard into simplified passive gameplay, something important is lost. The sense that your body matters. The idea that presence changes the rules. Flat games succeed because they abstract reality. VR's entire promise is the opposite, and that's the contradiction. Games like Vampire Survivors IVR raise an uncomfortable possibility. What if VR grows not by becoming deeper, but by becoming easier? What if the industry decides that the safest path forward is to avoid physicality, avoid complexity, and avoid friction altogether? That future might be accessible, it might be popular, but it would also be creatively limited. True VR design isn't about reducing effort to zero. It's about designing systems that respect effort. Smart pacing, intentional interaction, mechanics that feel physical without being exhausting. Vampire Survivors. VR isn't a mistake. It's a signal that VR is at a crossroads. One path leads to safer, flatter experiences that scale easily. The other demands risk, experimentation, and new design language. The question isn't whether Vampire Survivors VR belongs in VR. The real question is, if this becomes the dominant model, what kind of medium does VR turn into? If you're interested in honest, no-hype VR analysis, subscribe.